I don't believe personally that Bitcoin can be the primary money of civilization.
I advocate for trying to develop technologies that even just take away the option or add frictions to the government's attempt to just be omnipotent.
Doing collectively as
Real,
a
real quick,
society.
the number of times you interrupt me is much larger than the inverse, and so it's
Okay.
sometimes it's hard to just complete a thought. So
This is one of the most interesting Bitcoin debates I've seen recently, because it's not just about price. It's about a much bigger question. What is money actually supposed to be? And more importantly, who should control it?
Sure. I mean, yeah, a lot there. For starters, when I say nothing stops this train, that's specifically about the U.S. fiscal deficit.
Yeah.
Sometimes people take it to mean other things. So there's kind of a determinism aspect to the deficit because so much of it
Yeah.
is structural. Of course, that has investment implications.
Hmm.
Um, but again, sometimes people apply it to Bitcoin in a way that it's not meant to be. As far as kind of I do think that technology is the biggest driver of change. One thing I say in my book, Broken Money, is to paraphrase that basically political decisions affect things temporarily and locally, whereas technological changes generally affect things globally and more
Hmm.
permanently, at least until an asteroid, wipes us all out or whatever, and we reverse. And so, for example, when you invent refrigeration, that spreads everywhere,
Hmm.
and now we permanently have refrigeration now. Whereas if you make a political decision, it affects a certain amount of space and time, and it can eventually be reversed. And of course, some technology applies to money. Um, and I guess we can explore your claim in detail. I mean, you're the one that kind of wanted this discussion. I'm happy to have it. My general view is I don't go around trying to convince people of everything. I think I provide research on the topic. I invest my own money.
Hmm.
I propose portfolios that have done quite well that many people choose to follow
Hmm.
or take pieces of. So I'm not really in a position where I feel like I have to go around convincing people that Bitcoin's going to be the future of money. I'm not even sure, there's that claim of hyper Bitcoinization that one day it'll be like the only money or
Hmm.
by far the largest money. I'm somewhat agnostic on that view. My general view is that the total addressable market of Bitcoin is immense. I think it is a fine settlement and monetary network that certainly could
Hmm.
be the dominant money in the world. I think I would like to see it, but I think that's any sort of investment implications I do are 5 to 10 year views. I think technology changes so much, whether we talk about AI or robotics or energy or money or geopolitics. My structural views have kind of a firm opinion on what the next decade looks like. I don't try to predict what things are going to look like in 21, 26.
This is a huge idea. What she's saying is, governments can influence money in the short term, but technology changes money permanently. And if you think about it, that's already happened multiple times in history. Gold, paper money, digital banking. Now, potentially Bitcoin.
In essence, that the supply of US dollars is not bounded by any natural constraint. There's no algorithm. It's there's like the rate of money creation is constrained by Federal Reserve policy of the overnight like interbank lending rate system. It's like very sophisticated and complicated, but like ultimately there's no ceiling. Like you just like make more money. We call it printing. It's not really printing. It's more of a Rube Goldberg machine of creation of debt and a calculation um um of like time, the time money thing of deposit duration and stuff, and all this happens, and this is the money, your deposits get rehypothecated, and this is the fiat system. This is a system that you critique, and so when you say debasement, you mean that like the supply is allowed to increase in the main.
Now, this is the core of the entire debate. The current system works like this. Governments can create more money, banks expand credit. The supply increases over time, which means your money slowly loses purchasing power. Bitcoin flips that completely. fixed supply, no central authority, no debasement.
Inflation debases things in the way that you say, but they would argue that like the increased risk taking and entrepreneurial activity that comes from all of this like cheaper money, that yes, like does raise price levels on average, leads to productivity gains that like create more overall wealth. Like this is the sort of the Keynesian view, right? This is John Maynard Keynes view, and the Austrian view looks at this and sees a sort of like pathology, like a sort of like a moral sin being committed. And I personally, like I am like intuitively Keynesian, like not because I've been trained as a Keynesian, but because like my metaphysical sort of view of the world and the economy has always sort of just kind of been like, yeah, like aren't we just like we're kind of all just like making this up and playing a big game at some level, right? Like we have the economy and then like there's like aesthetics and culture and stuff like that, like all on top, right? Like look what we're doing now. Like people are paying me to do this. I don't know why, but they are.
Well, I would reframe it as this. When you have rapidly debasing money,
Mhm.
especially when that debasement is it's not a metallurgical reality, like we
Mhm.
discovered a new gold deposit for the first time
Yeah.
in a new continent, but rather that we're using a ledger controlled by humans,
Mhm.
and they can rapidly do policies that substantially increase the number of units and therefore affect every contract in that country and everyone's
Yeah.
savings in the country.
Mhm.
What we're doing is we're giving more power to the central administrators of that ledger.
Mhm.
Now, so from if you're a policymaker or kind of pro policymaker, you'd say that's a good thing. Nation states should have more control over all the contracts in their country, all the
Mhm.
businesses happening. Whereas people that are more critical of central policymakers would say, that's quite a lot of power.
Mhm.
That they already have the military power. They already have many other forms of concentrated power.
Mhm.
That also having them control the ledger that literally affects
Mhm.
every contract in the country and
Mhm.
everyone's ability to save, and also
Yeah.
not just debase, but also permission their assets. They can freeze bank accounts. They set all the rules for how the centralized banking system works. They control the most of the border flows where
Mhm.
possible. Um, that's quite a lot of power. So in the hands of someone that happens to be, the philosopher king, right?
Yep.
There are
Yep.
outcomes where that could work out okay.
Yeah.
But I think, especially when you look at, again, 100 plus countries around the world, in the time stretch that we've had this available,
Mhm.
to use Egypt, for example, they've used their centralized ledger to build what critics have kind of called a ghost city. So a new capital that is the tallest building in Africa, roughly the size of the Empire State Building, kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's a city that's largely empty. They are, for example, they're building a nuclear power plant, which is
Mhm.
good, but they started that after they built the ghost city. So this is like a lot of central planning is going on to this. And critics would say, well, these are big vanity projects that the government's deciding to do versus more utilitarian things. And the problem is that when you have 100 plus countries in the world and all the governments are controlling their ledgers, they can continually debase things, and the citizens are kind of have no expectation. They don't really have a way out other than hoping that their policymakers do things well.
Yeah.
This is a classic economic divide. On one side, inflation can be good, encourages spending, drives growth, fuels innovation. On the other side, inflation is harmful, reduces savings, transfers wealth, gives more power to governments.
Do you think people should
Sure.
be able to choose their own money to hold or pay with or receive?
Not necessarily.
And what is the justification for that? Like what
Well, I mean,
who should
it's
like
like do you do I did I ch- do I there's a lot of things I don't choose about like the political institutions. Like I don't I don't choose the laws that I have to obey, right? I mean, it's part of this gets back to social contract theory,
right?
John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, Rousseau, which like we can talk about that. I think I can make a justification for that, but I'm happy to answer more questions.
Right. So, the short answer, you don't believe people should be able to free to choose whatever money they want.
No,
Because the
not
reason I would
necessarily, not
okay,
necessarily. No,
because
like I mean, like
so the an
I don't think like I'm allowed. Like I mean, if like I say like you can't like use Russian rubles because like they're evil and they're trying to kill us, and if you use them, then we'll fine you. I'm like, okay, that sounds reasonable.
This question is deceptively simple, but it's actually one of the most important questions in this entire space. Should people be allowed to choose their own money? Because if the answer is yes, then Bitcoin becomes very powerful.
my case here is not to argue for anarchy as a philosophical point. My argue is that I clearly draw the line a different place than you, which is I would put the restriction on saying that two people cannot choose their own unit of account for a contract or what they save
Hmm.
their value in as comparable to saying that you can't practice this religion. You can't say this thing that is not, not incitement to violence. So I agree with on certain things there, but it's like you can't spread this idea because it's dangerous, or two consenting adults can engage in, say, a homosexual act, right? That
Hmm.
I would. There are certain things that many governments try to ban,
Yeah.
and I would generally put pretty benign contracting decisions among literally millions of individuals and businesses in that category. Now,
Why would
just
you do that?
but
Why would you put a commercial contract in the same category as sexual freedom?
because it's existential, right? So, for example, if
Why?
someone is using because if you cannot because it's the ability to feed your family and keep shelter over your head. If you can't save and do commerce
I mean,
properly because the
the
local
government has food assistance programs. They're not
but
trying
let
to
can
like they're
I
not
know
trying to
can I
prevent me from eating. I don't think that that's what we're doing collectively as a
real quick,
society.
the number of times you interrupt me is much larger than the inverse, and so it's
Okay.
sometimes it's hard to just complete a
Oh,
thought. So, um, for example, in Egypt, if someone is dealing with a 25% annual increasing unit of account all the time,
yeah. Yeah,
year
that's
after year
terrible.
after year. And that's not the worst. I mean, Egypt has managed to go from like the earliest data I have available, like from ever since they overthrew the British, they've not hyperinflated. They've not even had
Mhm.
triple digit inflation. They're not.
Mhm.
It's not even a worst case scenario. This is a pretty normal developing market scenario. And so everyone's using this unit of account. Their savings are just constantly just siphoned away from them.
Mhm.
Every anyone earning a wage has to constantly just try to keep up. Many are debanked, so they're not even earning interest on their savings.
Mhm.
And there are attempts. Of course, many people say, you know what, I want to try to hold dollars. This is so untenable to me that if I keep
Mhm.
doing this, it's like repeating something that it's like trying the same thing over and over again and hoping for a different result. And some people say, like, it's exponential that if I keep pricing things in this currency and especially in savings in this currency, me and my kids are going to be like poor if
Mhm.
we don't get ahead here.
Yeah.
So they say, okay, well, I'm going to try to save money because I want to buy a car in 2 years. So I'm going to save up in dollars, right?
Yeah.
And then the government comes in and tries to stamp out that activity. Or someone says, I want to buy some gold. And that activity is currently somewhat allowed there, but some
Mhm.
countries won't allow it. They'll say, "Well, that's you're violating our kind of social contract. I'll use this really shitty currency." Um, and so basically, I think it is a natural thing that people will try to gravitate away from rapidly devaluing units.
Mhm.
And I don't want to pick on Egypt here because I mean, it's not the worst, and they're not the most
Mhm.
draconian by any stretch, but they're kind of a standard example. We can use Iran or North Korea as some of the worst examples where you literally
Mhm.
cannot perform economically. It gets so bad at times, um, and the government's kind of thumb on every contract scale, it becomes existential for a lot of people. And so, but then the second point is not whether just they should. I advocate for trying to develop technologies that even just take away the option or add frictions to the government's attempt to just be omnipotent, right? So
Mhm.
if they have the technology, just surveil every transaction, decide
Mhm.
who gets a bank account, debase at
Mhm.
any frequency they want with zero kind of options to escape from it. I would consider that's very draconian and dystopian, and
Mhm.
I would support technologies that try to give individuals more abilities to at least have a negotiation with the government to say, look, if you get really draconian, a lot of us, millions of us, are going to do this thing with this technology that adds a lot of cost to you trying to get in our way if enough of us are doing it. So that we are going to try to take options to kind of preserve our existential economic ability here. And so that's generally, I think, where we have somewhat different intuitions that I think that people naturally will gravitate toward harder monies.
Mhm.
That draconian attempts to kind of surveil everything about them and control everything about their economic life is a step too far, and that even to the extent that countries do it, I would advocate ways to try to limit their ability to do that.
Mhm.
So, what's the takeaway from all of this? It's not that one side is completely right, it's that they're looking at different layers of the system. Short term, governments and policy matter. Long term, technology changes everything, and Bitcoin sits right at the intersection of those two. If you found this breakdown helpful, subscribe. I'm breaking down conversations like this every day so you can actually understand what's going on in Bitcoin without the noise.